Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be moderating this conversation. Um, First of all, I just want to say how much this conversation in particular means to me. As the social media manager at the Peace Studio, the way that I even got connected to the Peace Studio in the first place was through Peace First, this amazing organization that we're working with today. They champion young people more than any organization I've ever seen, and I'm just so honored to be a part of their, I don't even want to say network because I don't even know that that's true, about a part of their family, really. I think that the young people at Peace First and the staff, everyone just feels like a family. So this is just an awesome way to start my Thursday and be getting to talk to people who mean so much to me. Um, just a little bit of context about this conversation. We are at the last week of our 100 Offerings of Peace campaign. We have our amazing artist here, Stephanie, who we were connected with via Peace First. And as a part of the last week of the campaign, we're doing a special series of co-commissions and webinars. And so I'm going to start off by introducing myself really quickly and then give the other panelists some space to introduce themselves. So my name is Sana. As I said, currently serve as the social media manager at the Peace Studio. And I want to give a little bit of background, I guess, how I'm kind of involved in the two of these organizations. So personally, I have a nonprofit organization called the Love Your Natural Self Foundation. I started that organization after losing all my hair at 12 years old and really, really struggling with the way I looked. But eventually I found the courage to go without my wig and just feel beautiful and embrace myself exactly as I am. And I wanted to bring that gift of self-confidence and self-love to other people, particularly other young people, because I knew how it felt to be 12 and to just, go to sleep one night with all your hair and wake up one morning without it, right? Like I knew what it was like to basically lose your self-love overnight. And I wanted to make sure that no young person ever had to go without that. So I started this peacemaking project to kind of help individuals bring peace within. And Peace First was actually one of the first organizations to champion that. They gave me one of my first $250 to kind of get the project off the ground. And having someone believe in you that young, I think, means the world in a world in a space where young people are often kind of not given the attention and the support that they deserve. So I know personally that meant the world to me. And I would love to pass it on to Jasmine, who's been a great mentor of mine, works at Peace First, and can kind of speak a little bit more about herself and introduce herself.
Thanks. Yeah, I am really, really excited to be here and have this conversation with you all. I'm Jasmine. I am the lead storyteller at Peace First, and Sana and I have actually worked together at Peace First. She was one of our accelerator participants, and so it's really nice to be on this call and share this time with you. So my journey with Peace First in particular, and just being a young person in social activism, started when I was about 15 years old. I had one of those moments of obligation when my best friend came to me and was telling me that she was being cyberbullied online. She was really struggling with self-confidence and her self-esteem. And it was really hard to hear because I knew how amazing of a young woman that she was, and she didn't see what I saw. And so I started my nonprofit, Love Girls Magazine, as a tool and resource for girls in my community to use their voice, tell their own stories, celebrate each other, talk about things that are important to them, like bullying, body image, domestic violence, politics, and beauty and fashion, and all of those other things. And I actually got involved with Peace First. I was about 18 years old when I applied for the Peace First Prize, back when the Peace First Prize was our main mode of giving and support for young people. And it was $25,000 in grant funding, and it actually changed my life. To be a group of teenagers, a group of teenage girls, and being trusted with this massive amount of money changed the way that we ran our nonprofit. It changed the way that I thought about myself as a leader. It changed the way that I saw the world and saw myself in the world. And so after that moment, I was very connected with Peace First. I saw that they really believed in young people. A few years after that, I joined the board for Peace First. I still currently serve as a board member, and I've been a fellow in residence for a little over a year. It's been the best job ever. And so, yeah, I get to work with amazing young people like Sana and hear about amazing projects like Social Justice Sewing Academy. So, yes, very excited. And I will pass it on to Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. So my name's Stephanie, and I am program director for Social Justice Sewing Academy, also the outreach coordinator. I do a lot of different things here and there. We are a completely volunteer ran organization, so it's just kind of like whatever lands on your plate, but those would be more my official terms. So I got involved with Social Justice Sewing Academy about 3 years ago. I went to a show and an art show, and I saw these quilts. Like, I had a friend talk to me about it, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like, if this is something I'm super interested in. Like, social justice and textiles, like, that doesn't sound like your typical mix, that your typical form of activism. So I was like, you know what, I'm all about it, let's go. So we went to the show, and that's where I met Sarah. And ever since then, I have just been completely on board with everything they do. So for those who don't know anything about Social Justice Sewing Academy, we're a nonprofit textile art group that uses fabric as a vehicle towards social change. So what we do is we go into schools, prisons, libraries, anywhere that's interested in booking a workshop with us, and we teach a short social justice lesson, and then we give voice to youth. We allow them to make a block that they're passionate about with no censorship. And then we just tell them that these blocks are going to be booked in museums. Like, this is your chance to advocate for your story. This is your chance to tell all the things that you've been through, and have people see that. And because we have an intergenerational model, what we the blocks go to like older, more affluent people, and then they get to ruminate on the message that this youth is sending. So that's kind of my story with SJSA. And I generally do workshops. I don't feel that I'm the best artist, but when you guys reached out and asked me to make an art piece, I could not resist that opportunity.
Thank you. It's amazing to hear from you both. You're both awesome. So speaking of that art piece, we would love to now show the offering, and kind of get the opportunity to see that, and then maybe have Stephanie speak about it a little bit and talk about the inspiration behind the offering, and kind of what it means to you and what you hope that the world gets out of this offering after seeing it. So Stephanie, I would love for you to just take the stage and talk about and share about what this offering means to you.
Originally, I kind of struggled with what I was going to make for a Peace First offering. I sat down and I really kind of thought about peace. And I was thinking, happiness and rainbows and sunshine, which is, not something that's necessarily always going to occur. So the more I thought about it, the more frustrated I started to become, because I have made art pieces in the past, but I've never really sat down and made an art piece when I've kind of been told, like, you need to, make art for a certain concept. other than social justice. So I had to kind of step back and go back to my normal way of doing things. And anytime that I've made something, I've always started with just a random piece of fabric. And I would say, oh, I really like this. This looks like blood, or I like this. It looks like the sun. I just happen to have a lot of red, and I had been listening just to some different music, and one of the lines, I think Macklemore's white privilege song came on, and there's a line on there that says something about no justice, no peace, there's blood in the streets. And I was like, you know what, I am going to make blood in the streets. And then Colin Kaepernick stands for the peace, because so many people, when he first started kneeling for social justice, had an issue with what he was doing. And now if you go back and you look, they're like, well, why don't you guys just kneel like you used to? And it just got me really thinking about how the only time that America is happy is when people of color's voice is silenced, that there's no correct way. So I just saw that as a huge gap in what we needed for peace, was that effort, that protest, that activism. So peace isn't just, you know, the end result to peace isn't a calm road. Peace is not just given. It's something that we have to advocate for. It is something that we have to fight for and be heard over. So that was the reasoning behind my Colin Kaepernick piece. There was that his protests were bringing about attention towards the loss of life for Black men at the hands of police, and police brutality cannot exist in a land of peace. We as citizens and need to take a stand for all individuals, and not just continue to allow those types of things to happen. We have to give voice to those who don't have power. And I feel like Colin Kaepernick really did that. And then let's see, my other one kind of went in hand with this. It says the only hoodie that's a threat. So this one was kind of inspired in correlation with this, but it was mainly more of a thought along the lines of, Trayvon Martin, and just the fact that a hoodie has become a symbol of being a gangster and a thug, and it's often used to demean people and to profile them, when a hoodie is just an innocent piece of clothing that's been worn by everyone, every culture, every generation. There's no threat in the hoodie. It's the fact that they want to profile Black bodies when it's being worn. So I wanted to make it very, very clear with the large writing and the very simplistic design, that there was only one hood in America. Now maybe a Magna hat, but as far as in the past, there's only been one hoodie that's ever been a threat, two piece. And that has been that worn by the KKK. So once again, like, we have a situation here in America where, white supremacy isn't being denounced as it should be. And that's leaving a gap in the peace building, and it's ripping at the fabric of society, which is creating a void of peace. So my offerings felt a little backwards when I first did them, because they weren't quite what I thought they were going to be. I thought I was going to be making something that showed like a utopian society, or the actual pathway to peace, but I ended up with things that tear at the fabric, that prevent peace.
Thank you for sharing that. And just in line with these offerings, I would love to ask you a question. I feel that like if someone, these are so powerful, and what you shared is so powerful and such an important view of peace. I love how active your view of peace is, versus just maybe this passive act or passive way to think of peace. It's like this everyday action we have to take, and the fact that we have to hold ourselves accountable. So I guess along that lines, what action do you hope that someone who sees these offerings might take? Like, what's one thing that they could do or ask themselves or do differently, or a step that they could take to educate themselves more? Like, what's maybe a couple action steps that you have? Because we love here at the Peace Studio to not only kind of share these important pieces, but then to tell people what's next. What do we do with this amazing artwork we've just seen? How can we act on it? How can we be better? How can we hold ourselves accountable?
So I would encourage anyone who sees this art to kind of participate in unlearning. I feel like so often we take the opinions of social media and the opinions of others that are around us. So I think the first step would be to actually look up, in the case of the Colin Kaepernick block, look up what his movement stood for. Look up, or you can just Google, because we're working on another project. People killed by police. And I think as of June, when I was working on the project, there were already like 500 people in America. Just look up the information and sit with that without the opinion of others. And I don't feel that anyone can look at the mass amounts of people and cut out the opinions of politics and friends and be able to walk away from that situation unchanged. So I would participate in learning and unlearning. With the only hoodie that's a threat, the KKK and slavery and Jim Crow is not being taught in schools. Truthfully, it's definitely history is taught through the lens of the victor, and which in our case is the person that the institution that's oppressing us. So both Malcolm and James Baldwin spoke a lot on the enemy cannot educate your children. And we are allowing America, that was the main oppressor of all people of color, to educate youth of color. And what we are getting is a very whitewashed version of history. We're getting a version of history where we're learning about people who have done amazing things, but none of those people are people of color. When we're taught history, we're taught that, you know, at least I grew up in a very conservative, very white area. And like, I remember when we learned about slavery, like we weren't taught that it was really this huge thing. Like, yeah, we spent a little bit of time on it and we were told like it was bad. But we weren't told that the justice system ripped kids away from Black mothers and sold them on the steps of capitals. We weren't taught about penal farms and how that took the place of slavery, and how those people actually did worse in penal farms than they did in slavery, because at least when they were in slavery, the masters had an investment in them. The people that were working them in the penal farms had no investment. They were replenishable. We weren't told how loitering laws were passed so that we can continue to arrest Black people that weren't employable because white people wouldn't employ them and put them in these farms. Like, we just weren't told so many things. So I would really encourage people to reach out to social justice organizations, find a social justice reading list, participate in unlearning, because to me, activism is education. So you can go out and you can holler in the streets and you can yell in a bullhorn, and yeah, you might make a dent, but you will never impact a population if you aren't educating them.
Thank you so much. That's some amazing advice. I love the idea of unlearning, and just kind of taking that time to yourself, especially I think when a lot of the learning happens these days on like social media and kind of seeing that stuff. But I think just pulling up the facts and sitting with yourself, I think that's really good advice and just such a tangible step that people could take. Um, Speaking of, you, at the end of your answer kind of mentioned getting involved with social justice organizations. I would love to kind of ask if someone wanted to get involved with this amazing work that you're doing, and amazing pieces that you guys are creating. What could they do? What are next steps? Um, I would love to kind of just share that.
So we are always looking for all types of different volunteers. We currently have several projects going. So the easiest way would be to go to our website, and we have a volunteer form. And we get these, and you just put your email, what you're interested in, what your skills are, and then I reach out to you and we kind of get things set up. So we are a completely volunteer run organization. No one is paid, and it's great in that way, but we do really need steady volunteers. So we have a volunteer that works on helping to write grants, that's recently come on board. We have volunteers that embroider the blocks. When the kids make them, they're not having the chance to sit and embroider, and that's a very time consuming practice. So we have volunteers that sign up to embroider the blocks after the youth make them. And I think we have like 800 embroidery volunteers all around the world. Like, I just shipped blocks to Germany, Australia, and Canada. Um, we have right now the Remembrance Project going as well. So you can make an art piece so we will issue you a name of somebody who lost their life due to senseless violence. And you make a image of them, something that reminds you of them on a block, and we're creating banners, and we're actually booking with different organizations right now to have these banners displayed at protest at the central areas, just because we want to call attention to the amount of violence that occurs. So we have some that are people who were murdered by police and some that were murdered by the community. And it's just a movement to draw attention to the different ways that violence occurs, and to give these people name, to always remember who they are. So you could volunteer to make a block if you are crafty and really artistic. We also have a project where we are making quilts for families whose son, daughter, aunt was murdered by police in an act of senseless violence. So we've started making those and issuing them out, and we gather the clothes for the individuals and from the individuals and make them onto the quilt. And then we also have like the Facebook learning community, where I post units every week of just, like certain topics. Like, I just did the Tuskegee trials, death in Black women who are having children, maternity rates for Black women, and racial biases in the medical system. So it's every week there's a different unit, so you can just go and have that resource. There's things like how to deal with your family during the holidays when they say racist things, or just different things like that. So we have ways to learn. So you can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram. We definitely are an organization that will always find a way for you to volunteer.
Great, thank you. Stephanie, we have loved learning about and profiling your amazing work and the amazing organization that you're doing this a part of. I know at the Peace Studio, we love working with, partnering with fellow peace building organizations. So it's definitely been an honor. Jasmine, that being said, I would love to hear more about your experience with Peace First, working with amazing individuals like Stephanie, and then just more about Peace First as a whole, because I know that there's so many different components to peace and so many different approaches to bring peace. So I've loved this conversation so far, because I think it's really highlighted the different forms that peace can take, and I would love your insights as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you so much, Senna. And Steph, I think that what you've created is phenomenal. It feels really timely, especially with it being on an election year, with Black Lives Matter happening, and with COVID, and just feeling like it's been a hard year. What you've created really spoke to me personally. So thank you for all the work that you put in to create those pieces. They were really amazing. Um, Peace First. So, like a lot of young people, I stumbled upon Peace First looking for resources. I was angry about not having a place to go share my story. I was angry about not having people believe in my vision and what I wanted to do for young women in my community. And so I always like to think about Peace First as a safe haven for young people. We believe in the power of young people to change the world. Um, we our values are courage, compassion, and collaboration, and we want young people to have a space where they can come, feel comfortable, sharing their ideas and getting into leadership, getting into activism. We're actually a global organization. We started in the United States. Our founder, Eric Dawson, started this organization about 20 years ago, and it's been the only job that he's ever had. But he was also a young person who was really passionate about creating and building a better world and not feeling like there was a place for young people to go in order to do that. So he wanted to create space for young people in the US and now globally to have an opportunity to get the money and the mentorship that they need. And so currently we operate in 7 different regions around the world. We have fellows and residents in each of those regions. So they're really doing the grassroots work. We're in Sub-Saharan Africa, MENA, Latin America, US and Canada, Asia, Oceania, and the UK and Europe. And we have about 12 fellows and residents right now who are helping us do all of this work. We have thousands and thousands of young people on the platform who are focusing on projects around domestic violence, who are focusing on projects around racial injustice, mental health, education, anything that's important to young people. Our job, what we do at Peace First, is we provide a space and resources for young people to reach their potential, reach their goals, create projects to make their communities better, safer, happier. And so we're really a support system, sort of like an incubator for ideas. And we have $250 mini grants. These grants are you can just apply. There are really no restrictions on who can apply. And we send those out. You get mentorship from one of our fellows and residents and the opportunity to accelerate. Accelerators are opportunities for young people to take their projects to the next level, to get even more into their activism. And one program that I want to talk about quickly is our Build program. It's our initiative for Black young leaders in the United States, Canada, the UK, and Europe. Started after the Black Lives Matter movement sort of blew up with George Floyd. And it was really important to me and everybody at Peace First to make sure that we were supporting young leaders of color and their efforts and making sure that we close some of the opportunity gaps that happen with young Black leaders. And we're replicating this program with young people in the LGBTQ community. And so lots of amazing stuff happening. And if you're interested in Peace First at all, our resources, our mentorship, all the information is on peacefirst.org.
Great, thank you. Personally, I know I have loved working with Peace First, and that was such a beautiful summary of what y'all do. So I'm really inspired by the two of you, and I would love to just continue the conversation with a couple of questions. just surrounding peace and just tying this all together. So one of the questions that I was thinking about is just what peace kind of means to each of us personally. I know, Stephanie, you talked about this a little bit, but I would love to circle back around to just like the different definitions of peace. And I can go ahead and share first. I think peace to me, I often think about inner peace. I do a lot of work with self-love and social and emotional learning. So I think that the way that I approach peace and what's been so amazing working with these peace building orgs has been to see the different ways that people approach peace. And so for me, I think it's always been starting with internal peace, right? I think it's been like my passion area is really to focus on how do we create peace within our own mental health, within our own well-being. I always say make peace with yourself and then go out and give peace to the world, right? And I kind of think of self-love as like a bucket, and when it gets so full, it overflows that you just can't help but love other people. And that's kind of how I've always thought of peace. And so often one of the biggest things that I can do to contribute to peace is like step back and take care of myself and make sure that I'm feeling full in order to go out to bring peace to others. But I would love to kind of hear from y'all what peace means to you personally in your own life, in your day-to-day life. Yeah, so Stephanie, how about you go ahead and then we can pass it on to Jasmine.
So for me, peace is equity. I don't think peace can exist without that. Um, and it's kind of that process of getting away from equality and thinking more towards equity. Peace is also, like you said, kind of that self-love, that feeling within. But I don't think peace necessarily has to be calm. I very much see peace as an action. So to me, peace is, just going out and creating change within the world, creating a better society, a better community, a better life for those that are around you, and allowing that ripple effect to take place.
Yeah, I have to echo everything that you both said. I agree, Stephanie, that like peace definitely does feel like an action for me. I wrote down the ability to move, think, love, and live freely. And whatever that might look like, I do believe that it's equity. I do believe that it's mental health. And I do believe that it looks different from person to person. And I think that the more that I spend time working at Peace First, and the more that I spend time with organizations like the Peace Studio, and just understanding peace from different perspectives, it definitely feels like an action. It definitely feels like something that you find in self-discovery and sitting with yourself, and also taking care of others, taking care of the people that you love, and building a better world for everybody. And I think that's where the equity piece comes in. Like you were saying, Stephanie, it's about having that peace within yourself and then giving that to other people in the best way you can.
Great, thank y'all. I think that's so great. And I think that my next question kind of ties into this. And thinking about how we can spread peace to others. If there is like a young person right now who is struggling to kind of see themselves as a peace builder, what advice would you give them? Is what I would love to know from each of you, because I do think that you guys have such unique insights, kind of cultivating communities of peace builders, cultivating individuals who want to see themselves as peace builders in the future. For me, I always, again, kind of similar to my definition of peace, tell individuals to start from within. Listen to yourself, make sure that you feel taken care of, make sure that your needs are met. And once they are, what kind of calls at you? What keeps you up at night? What is that voice inside your head that keeps repeating that issue that you just can't seem to stop thinking about? And start there, because I think that that's probably where you're going to be the most effective peace builder. I always think about the idea that like where you hurt the most is often where you can heal the most. And if you have something that's hurting you or that's really, really causing you to ache, I feel like even though it is not this calm experience, as Stephanie said, like it's not this calm, comfortable experience, but it's this very beautiful kind of experience to work towards peace building. And I really do think that you can, when you do dedicate your life as a peace builder, not only heal others, but also heal yourself. And I think that's a really, really kind of beautiful practice in that, like, when working to bring peace to the world, you're also in a lot of ways simultaneously working to bring peace to yourself. Because I think that if you do have that aching and you do, stay up at night thinking about an issue, like knowing that you're working on it and doing what you can is ultimately like a peaceful experience. So my advice for a young peace builder would definitely be to just kind of take a step back. um, think about, do you feel full? Do you feel okay? And once you do, like, then where does your brain go? What's the first thing that you think about? What kind of calls on you? Like, listen to that voice in your heart. Would be my first kind of piece of advice, but I would love to hear from you both.
No, that's really good, and I like what you said. It resonates with me a lot. There's a like this theory that one of my mentors, who also happens to be Eric, who happens to be the CEO of Peace First, but one of my favorite mentors, he would always talk to me about this idea about imagination capital, and what that is what that opportunity gap, not being able to see yourself in positions of power, so not being able to see yourself as a peace builder or a change maker, and why that is, and the marginalizations and the systems that had to be put in place in order for you not to see yourself as president, or not to see yourself as an organizer or an activist. And I guess my advice would be to put yourself in places that make you feel the most powerful, whether that be places that make you feel the most loved, places that make you feel the most heard, and not be afraid to seek out opportunities, and not be afraid to ask for help. There are so many different barriers for different people, and I think being really honest with yourself about the things that you're up against, not letting them get to you, not letting them bury you, but facing them head on and saying, this is where I come from, but this is where I want to go, and filling in that opportunity gap, and giving yourself that imagination capital to really dream big, and picture yourself exactly where it is that you want to be. I know it sounds kind of corny that, like sky's the limit, but I definitely do believe that, shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars. Giving yourself that opportunity, and really believing in yourself, and not letting anything stand in your way.
So I have to echo what both of you said, because that is pretty much my answer. But I do feel like we need to send the message to youth and get it across to them that their voices matter and that they're heard. So somewhere along the lines, we've deviated from putting confidence in youth. Because if you look back through history, we've had, kings and queens that were 10 and 12, not America, but my mom was married at 17 and moved across the country with my dad to a state where she had no family. So it's like, in tradition, or like older society, we put a lot of confidence in youth. We put confidence in them to make a home, to create a society, to be the fabric of society, to have opinions on politics, and all the things that are part of the world. But somewhere we've deviated from that, where now we see a 17-year-old simply as a child who knows nothing. And I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. I think there's some middle ground there, as to like, we've grown in understanding cognitive ability, but at the same time, we've, taken all the confidence away from the youth. So to me, my advice would be just be confident in yourself. And like Jasmine said, find a place where you feel like you're at your best, whether that's if you're, a place of love, a place of power. But it's just, find that confidence and seek out those resources.
Great, thank you so much. And the last question that I have, that I think is really important and kind of ties into everything that we've talked about so far. We recently kind of launched a campaign where we had individuals kind of share a video and share why peace and why now. And I think that's kind of what I want to end with, this kind of call to action of why think about peace and why is it timely right now? Like, why is it important to think about that now more than ever? And for me, I think when I think about this question, I think about one of my core, I guess, philosophies of life, one of the things that I try to challenge myself to live by and remember. And it's this idea that your strength doesn't come from the moments where, you're just feeling the strongest and you wake up feeling amazing. Your strength comes from those moments where you're at your weakest and you choose to kind of move forward anyway. Your courage doesn't come from the moments that you're speaking confidently and loud. Your courage comes from the moments where your voice is shaking but you choose to speak anyway. And I think just like that, peace can really thrive right now. Like, the world is very much hurting. The world is, at a point where some people feel that they're at an all-time low. Like, I've seen so many jokes made about 2020 kind of being the end of it. But I do think that there's this really like hopeless kind of nature behind a lot of that talk. And at the same time, we've seen like activism roar. We've seen the voices of like protesters and individuals be louder and stronger than ever. And I think that from this time of hurting, peace can rise, just like from a time of fear, courage can rise, from a time of weakness, strength can rise. And I think just from this time of pain, I believe with all my heart that peace can rise. And so why peace, why now? I guess my answer to that is because the world needs it now more than ever. And so that's precisely why now. But yeah, would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that as we finish up.
So like you mentioned, it's needed. Like I feel like we're on that cusp of like things are really going to go one way or the other. So why peace now is to heal the fabric of society. It's a time to make things right. And I also have so much faith in Gen Z. I know that people like to harp on them, and I feel like that's just tradition, but I have so much faith in their love and their commitment to a better world. So I really feel like with them emerging as young leaders, we really have the numbers and the opportunity to step in and make change and make peace, because they are going to be a generation that truly is pivotal in rebuilding because of just how compassionate Gen Z truly is.
Yeah, I agree with both of you wholeheartedly. Stephanie, about Gen Z, we have some statistics here at Peace First, and we know that we're raising the most compassionate generation ever to live, and it does give hope. And to the question, it's echoing what you both said. Like, if not now, then when? I do believe there is such a thing as too late. And there is a sense of urgency, and I do think that there needs to be a moral obligation to step up and really fight for a more peaceful world. So yeah, my answer is if not now, then when? There definitely is a sense of urgency that we have to do this now. It's important that we do this now.
Great. Well, thank y'all so much for kind of hopping on and having this conversation. I'm so inspired by you two and the amazing work that um, both of y'all are doing. And this has personally been very, very, I guess, centering me back to my purpose and remembering what peace means to me. So I really, really thank y'all for your time and just sharing your beautiful insights and your beautiful work. And I just look forward to seeing all the awesome work that both Stephanie and Jasmine, you continue to put out into the world, because the world needs y'all and your voices. And so I'm really excited to see what kind of comes next.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. This is so fun.
Yes, thank you. It was very nice to be here. Very nice to meet everyone. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with Peace First in their accelerator program and with Peace Studio in this 100 Days of Peace offering.